Good morning, my friends. Today I want to talk about a place we've all been, a place where the weight of the world presses so hard on your shoulders you feel like crumbling under its load. A place where the voices of doubt, discouragement, and despair whisper, just give up. That place is called almost. There comes a moment in every journey when the weight feels unbearable, the road seems endless, and every step forward feels like dragging an anchor uphill. It's the moment when tears fall freely, prayers seem unanswered, and silence echoes louder than hope. That moment is what many call the breaking point, the place where everything in you screams to stop, to walk away, to surrender to the pressure. But what if I told you that the breaking point isn't the end? What if I told you it's a doorway, not a destination? When you're at the breaking point, it feels final. The exhaustion isn't just physical. It's emotional, mental, even spiritual. You question everything, your abilities, your choices, even your worth. You wonder why the struggle is so intense and whether all the effort is in vain. But here's the truth. The breaking point is where growth begins, is where your limits are tested and your resilience are tested and your resilience is forged. It's not a sign of failure, but of progress. You don't reach a breaking point unless you've been pushing, striving, and moving forward. It's the evidence that you're in the fight. Think about the process of refining gold. The metal is subjected to intense heat, not to destroy it, but to purify it. The impurities rise to the surface so that what remains is stronger, more valuable, and more beautiful. That's what the breaking point does to you. The heat of life's challenges exposes what's holding you back, fear, doubt, insecurity, so that you can rise above them and step into your true strength. And the breaking point isn't there to destroy you, it's there to transform you. At the breaking point, you're forced to make a decision. You can either give in to the pressure or lean into the process. It's in that decision that you discover who you really are. The breaking point strips away the masks, the pretenses, and the illusions of control. It reveals the raw, unfiltered version of you, the part of you that is stronger than you realize and braver than you've given yourself credit for. It's in those moments of vulnerability that you find your deepest source of strength. The breaking point also has a way of clarifying your vision. When everything feels like it's falling apart, you're forced to focus on what truly matters. The distractions fade away and you're left with the essence of your purpose. It's often at your lowest that you discover what you're truly fighting for, your family, your dreams, your calling. The breaking point strips away the noise and brings your priorities into sharp focus. It's easy to think that reaching a breaking point means you're at the end of your rope, but it's often the opposite. It's the moment when you're closest to a breakthrough. Just like a seed must break through the soil to grow, you must break through the pain, the fear, and the doubt to reach new heights. The breaking point isn't where the story ends. It's where the next chapter begins. Pain has a way of demanding attention. It speaks in whispers and shouts, in sleepless nights and weary days. It tells you to stop, to retreat, to turn back. Pain convinces you that the cost is too high and the journey isn't worth it. But there's something that speaks louder than pain, something that defies its grip and pushes you forward, even when every fiber of your being wants to give up. That something is purpose. Purpose is what anchors you when life storms rage. It's the why behind your what. It's the reason you wake up each morning and face challenges that seem insurmountable. When you're connected to your purpose, pain loses its power to paralyze you. It may hurt deeply, but it doesn't have the final say. Purpose gives you a reason to keep going, even when the going gets... There's a truth that often gets overlooked. Pain and purpose are often intertwined. The very thing that causes you the most pain is often tied to what you're called to do. Think about it. Mothers endure the pain of childbirth because their purpose is to bring new life into the world. Athletes push their bodies to the brink of exhaustion because their purpose is to compete, to excel, to inspire. Purpose doesn't eliminate pain, but it gives it meaning. It reframes the struggle, turning it into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. When pain threatens to overwhelm you, purpose steps in as a guide. It reminds you that the journey is bigger than the moment. It shifts your focus from what you're going through to what you're growing into. Purpose has a way of pulling you out of the immediate and planting your feet firmly in the eternal. It's the voice that says, this is hard, but it's worth it. This hurts, but it's building something greater. Purpose also fuels resilience. It creates a sense of determination that no amount of pain can extinguish. When you know why you're doing something, you find the strength to endure. You dig deep, tap into reserves you didn't know you had, and press forward when others would fall back. Purpose is the fire in your soul that refuses to be snuffed out no matter how fierce the winds of adversity may blow. And here's the beauty of purpose. It not only sustains you, but it also transforms you. The very process of pursuing your purpose through pain refines you. It strengthens your character, sharpens your focus, and deepens your empathy. Purpose doesn't just give you the ability to endure pain, it uses the pain to shape you into someone who is stronger, wiser, and more capable of fulfilling your calling. Pain is temporary, but purpose is eternal. It's the driving force that propels you past your limits, reminding you that the story isn't over and the best is still to come. When you hold on to purpose, you discover that pain, no matter how intense, can never outlast the power of a life driven by meaning. Perspective shapes everything. It's not what happens to you that defines your journey, it's how you see it. Two people can face the same situation, yet one will find despair while the other discovers opportunity. That's the power of perspective. It has the ability to transform how you experience life, even in the midst of difficulty. When challenges arise, the natural tendency is to focus on the problem. It's easy to zero in on what's wrong, what's broken, and what's missing. The problem seems enormous, overshadowing everything else. But perspective offers a different lens. It invites you to step back and see the bigger picture. What looks like a mountain from up close might only be a bump in the road when viewed from a wider angle. Perspective reminds you that the storm you're in isn't permanent. It's just a chapter in a much larger story. Perspective doesn't deny the reality of your circumstances, but it challenges the way you interpret them. It asks questions that shift your focus. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Perspective encourages you to ask, what can I learn from this? Instead of dwelling on, what have I lost? It pushes you to consider, what do I still have? Those small shifts in thinking can completely change the way you approach adversity. Perspective also unlocks gratitude. When you take a moment to step outside of your immediate struggles and look at the whole of your life, you begin to see the blessings you may have overlooked. The breath in your lungs, the strength in your body, the people who support you. These are treasures that pain and difficulty often try to hide. Gratitude doesn't erase the challenges, but it gives you the strength to face them with hope instead of despair. Perspective has the power to turn setbacks into setups. What looks like a closed door might actually be redirecting you to something better. The detours you resent could be the very paths that lead you to your purpose. When you shift your perspective, you start to see obstacles not as barriers, but as opportunities to grow, to innovate, and to persevere. The situation may not change immediately, but the way you navigate it will. It's not always easy to change your perspective, especially when you're in the thick of the storm. But even small adjustments can make a big difference. Sometimes it means seeking advice from someone who's been where you are and can offer a clearer view. Other times it's simply reminding yourself that this moment, no matter how painful, is temporary. Perspective doesn't ignore the struggle. It redefines it. It takes what feels like an ending and reframes it as a beginning. The power of perspective is limitless. It allows you to find beauty in brokenness, strength in struggle, and purpose in pain. It doesn't change the facts of your situation, but it changes the way you see them, and that makes all the difference. When you choose to shift your perspective, you shift your reality, unlocking new possibilities you never imagined. Surrender is often misunderstood. In a world that glorifies control, power, and independence, surrender can seem like weakness, like giving up. But true surrender isn't about quitting. It's about releasing. It's about letting go of the need to control every detail, to force every outcome, and to carry every burden on your own shoulders. And in that release, you discover a strength that doesn't come from striving, but from trusting. There's a certain freedom that comes with surrender. A freedom that can only be found when you stop holding so tightly to things that are beyond your control. The harder you try to cling, the more you realize how little control you actually have. Life has a way of reminding you of this through unexpected setbacks, unanswered questions, and moments that stretch you to your limit. But surrender isn't about resigning yourself to chaos. It's about acknowledging that there's a power greater than you at work, a plan unfolding that may not match your timeline or your preferences, but is ultimately for your good. Surrender requires humility, and humility is where strength begins. It takes humility to admit that you don't have all the answers, that your strength alone isn't enough, and that you need help. But in that humility, there's a quiet courage that begins to emerge. You stop wasting energy on fighting battles that aren't yours to fight and start focusing on what you can do, leaving the rest to unfold as it will. You're no longer drained by the need to control everything. Instead, you're empowered by the faith that things will work out as they should. Strength in surrender also comes from the perspective it brings. When you surrender, you gain clarity. You stop being consumed by what's going wrong and start noticing what's going right. You stop dwelling on closed doors and begin to see the open ones you've been too distracted to walk through. Surrender doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means looking at it through a lens of trust and hope rather than fear and doubt. That shift in perspective can make all the difference. There's also a deep resilience that comes with surrender. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up on effort. It means focusing your effort in the right places. When you stop trying to manipulate outcomes, you free yourself to invest fully in the things that truly matter. You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You're no longer running in circles trying to fix everything. Instead, you're moving forward with purpose and peace. Perhaps the greatest strength in surrender is the way it connects you to others and to a higher power. Surrender opens the door to collaboration, to leaning on those who care for you and allowing them to support you. It opens your heart to guidance and wisdom from a source beyond yourself. It's in surrender that you find peace, not because the struggle disappears, but because you've stopped trying to carry it alone. True strength doesn't come from holding on tighter. It comes from letting go. Resilience doesn't come from ease. It's forged in the fires of resistance. It's the result of facing challenges that push you to your limits and demand more of you than you thought you could give. Resistance, though uncomfortable and often painful, is the very thing that prepares you for the weight of your purpose. It's in the tension, the struggle, and the persistence that resilience is born. Resistance is not an obstacle to growth, it's the process through which growth occurs. Think about the way muscles are built. When you lift weights, you're intentionally creating resistance for your muscles to work against. It's not the ease of movement that makes you stronger. It's the strain, the burning sensation, and the effort required to push through. Over time, that resistance transforms your muscles, making them stronger and more capable of bearing the load. In the same way, life's challenges are the weights you must lift to grow stronger emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Every challenge you face presents an opportunity to build resilience. It's not about whether the challenge is fair or whether you feel ready to face it. It's about how you respond. Resistance forces you to dig deep, to find strength you didn't know you had, and to keep moving forward, even when the odds seem stacked against you. It stretches you beyond your comfort zone, and in that stretching, it expands your capacity. Resistance also teaches you the value of perseverance. When you face setbacks and disappointments, it's tempting to give up, to walk away from the struggle. But resilience is built when you choose to stay in the fight, to press forward even when progress feels slow or non-existent. Each time you refuse to quit, you're strengthening your ability to endure. You're proving to yourself that you can handle more than you thought and that the struggle won't break you. What's powerful about resistance is that it doesn't just strengthen you, it transforms you. The struggles you face today are shaping the person you'll become tomorrow. They're refining your character, teaching you patience, and helping you develop wisdom and empathy. You may not see it in a moment, but every challenge is equipping you with the tools you'll need for future battles. Resilience is not just about surviving the storm. It's about emerging from it stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what lies ahead. Resistance also reveals what truly matters. When you're in the midst of a struggle, you begin to see what's worth fighting for. The distractions fall away and your focus sharpens. You realize that the resistance you face is often a sign that you're on the right path. After all, resistance doesn't come against those who are standing still. It comes against those who are moving forward, those who are making progress and challenging the status quo. Resilience isn't built in a moment, it's built over time through every challenge you endure and every battle you fight. It's the strength that comes not from avoiding resistance, but from facing it head on and allowing it to shape you. Almost is a place that every person visits at some point in their journey. It's the place where exhaustion meets discouragement, where doubt whispers louder than hope, and where the temptation to quit feels stronger than the will to keep going. It's the point where you've given so much of yourself that you wonder if there's anything left to give. But almost isn't the end, it's the threshold. Victory is waiting just on the other side. The thing about almost is that it feels final, but it's not. It's a moment of decision, not a moment of defeat. When you're standing in the middle of almost, everything in you wants to stop. Your mind tells you it's too hard, your body says it's too tired, and your heart questions if the fight is worth it. But almost is where breakthroughs are born. It's where you find out what you're truly made of. It's the space where you either give in to the pressure or push through to the promise. The hardest part of almost is that it convinces you the finish line is farther than it really is. The truth is, most people quit, not because they aren't capable, but because they don't realize how close they are to victory. The greatest successes often come right after the greatest struggles. It's like climbing a mountain. Just before you reach the summit, the climb is steepest, the air is thinnest, and the fatigue is heaviest. But if you keep putting one foot in front of the other, the view at the top makes every grueling step worth it. Almost is also a test of faith. It challenges you to believe in what you can't yet see. When you're in the middle of the struggle, it's hard to imagine what victory will look like. You can't see the finished product or the reward waiting on the other side. But faith is what keeps you moving when your circumstances tell you to stop. What's powerful about pushing through almost is the transformation that happens along the way. The journey refines you. It builds your strength, sharpens your focus, and deepens your resilience. By the time you reach victory, you're not the same person who started the climb. You've grown in ways you couldn't have imagined, and the challenges that once seemed insurmountable now feel like stepping stones. Victory isn't just about crossing the finish line. It's about the perseverance it took to get there. It's about the moments when you wanted to quit but chose to keep going. It's about the strength you discovered in your weakness and the courage you found in your fear. Almost isn't the end of your story, it's the turning point. And if you're willing to press on, if you're willing to fight just a little longer, you will discover that the victory waiting on the other side was worth every step of the journey